I didn't do it! Oh. Oh. 3 o'clock. Shit. You doing our review? Oh. Okay. Let's see what we got. Okay. Alright. Let's see what we got. No. Probably not gonna do that until later. No. Okay. The Fellowship of the Ring, the first of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, written by J.R.R. Tolkien. Yeah, I can see a lot of people getting into this. Knowing me, I have not read the books or seen the movies, so this will be an education in itself. But it does come to risk, meaning that if I fuck up the pronunciation of a name or fuck up one of the history lores, the comment section are going to skewer me alive and rip out my heart until the day I die, ruin my chances of becoming a big time YouTube reviewer. Perfect! Look at the time now. Hey! Gather up the book, pop in the DVD, sit back and enjoy the super awesome BVO. Yarr! How's it going, bookworms, filmsters? I'm Katana, and welcome back to another BVM. And if I actually remember to record it, you might have caught the obviously subtle thought that I have never touched this series in any way possible. This 62-year-old masterpiece was written by John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, or famously abbreviated as J.R.R. Tolkien. Spending a total of 12 years in writing this fantasy legend, it's a no-brainer this will be one of the best fantasy novels ever written. And here I am, after 21 years, still wondering how have I not even read or watched this series at all. Well, my friends, things are about to change. So sit back, relax, and enjoy yourselves as we dive right into Tolkien's world, beginning with The Fellowship of the Ring. In a nutshell, the story focuses on Frodo Baggins, the nephew of a famous hobbit/adventurer named Bilbo Baggins. They live in a quaint little community called the Shire, or at least that's true until Bilbo's 111th birthday, where he decides to pull a great disappearance and leave the Shire to spend his final days seeing the grounds of Middle-earth. Frodo is left with the fancy house titled Bag End, the remaining treasures, and the golden ring, capable of invisibility powers. From there on, 17 years pass before a grand wizard named Gandalf comes around, telling Frodo the dangers of the ring, specifically how it's able to control other powerful rings, and that a dark lord named Sauron is looking for it. With danger coming to the Shire, Frodo has no choice but to leave his home and embark on this perilous journey to destroy the ring and its power. He brings along his gardener Sam and his 2 cousins Merry and Pippin. Through the deepest forest and the highest mountains, this little hobbit is far from realizing the most epic adventure that lays upon him. And I know that I might have left out a huge chunk of information dealing with the history about the rings and the Last Alliance, but trust me, it would be much easier to explain that with the movie's pacing. So for our characters, we have Frodo Baggins, our protagonist. He's in charge of dealing with the ring since Bilbo parted with it. Sam is the gardener of the Bag End household. He's incredibly faithful and loyal to Frodo during their quest and has a very fascinating interest with elves. Merry and Pippin are both cousins of Frodo. Merry is considered the more intelligent of the two, while Pippin, well, his trait was that he was young. Too young, in fact, that he might have not joined the Fellowship at all. I'm sorry, little one, you gotta be at least this old to travel to the land of death and despair. Gandalf the Grey is an incredible wizard who's personal friends with the Baggins and provides tremendous help in this quest. He can be real intimidating when needed, very knowledgeable of Middle-earth, and can bring some rockin' fireworks to any big party bash. Bilbo is Frodo's uncle, adopted after Frodo's parents died in a boating accident. He was the last holder of the ring after finding it from his last owner, Gollum. He can be very cheery at times and expresses himself in song whenever he pleases. Strider, later on to be revealed as Aragorn, is the heir of Isildur, the second king of Gondor who cut off the Dark Lord's finger in the Last Alliance, taking the ring for himself. He meets the hobbits in Bree, revealing to be a good friend of Gandalf and helps them reach Rivendell. He's then recruited to join the Fellowship and help Frodo destroy the ring. Which brings me to discuss the final 3 of the Fellowship. Legolas is an elf who was brought to Rivendell to discuss Gollum escaping the elves from Mirkwood. Gimli is a dwarf who came to Rivendell with his father Gloin to get advice about the disappearance of his uncle Balin and his men when they traveled to the mines of Moria and never returned. And finally there's Boromir, also a man from Gondor like Aragorn. He came to Rivendell to talk about the ring, wondering if it could be used to defend his land from evil, but the proposal was quickly denied. With the diverse combination of these 9, the Fellowship was created to defend Frodo against the Black Riders, or Nazgul, and to assist him on his journey to destroy the ring in the cracks of Mount Doom. And now it's time to talk about the book overall, and the simplest way I could put it, it was a really amazing read. I cannot stress how much fun I had reading this book. First of all, the details. I mean, from the description of flowers to the clouds above their heads, Tolkien goes beyond lengths to bring this story to life. He's practically painting a picture to you as you observe Frodo and his friends traveling through roads, mountains, towns, and capitals, you name it. And my god, it actually feels like a legitimate adventure, and this comes from the fact that I had no idea what I was going into. I wasn't spoiled of anything, I didn't watch the movies, so there was surprise at every turn, such as being captured by the trees of the forest or having a freaking mountain freeze you to death. It's so insane, but I loved it, like reading a really good RPG. Oh, please tell me this is the inspiration for RPGs. No. But although I enjoyed it, that can't be said for everyone else. In this scenario, the massive amount of details does pose as both a good thing and a bad thing. I'm not going to lie, there's really a lot of it, and it can put off some readers who just came for the story, but have to go through some descriptions about, let's say, the trees, that wouldn't entirely seem interesting. And when talking about the prologue and the history of this universe, it was, personally, both agonizing, but needed. I'm not what you would call a real history buff. It's always been my worst subject, and just seeing it all bunched in the prologue was a little off-putting to my taste. But in reality, it was really helpful. I learned a lot about what a hobbit actually is, and how the ring traveled, and the true story of Bilbo getting the ring from Gollum. I didn't necessarily enjoy it as I did with the actual story, but it was needed, considering that The Hobbit was the first of this series. Also, was it wise to start this trilogy before The Hobbit? Because I kinda heard that The Hobbit eases you into this world. But then again, most people are familiar with this story, and actually the movie had no problems starting with this trilogy first, so why should I? Either way, I already made my choice, so whatever happens, happens. But that's pretty much the simplicity of The Fellowship of the Ring. It was an extremely fun read with incredible adventures, colorful characters, and a plot that really grips you to read on. Now it's time to check out the 2001 adaptation directed by Peter Jackson. And I'm glad you guys are enjoying long episodes, because with an approximation of a 4-hour movie and a shit ton of details, I get the funny suspicion this might take a while. Well, nevertheless, why don't we get started to analyze and compare The Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. So the movie begins with a crash course history lesson, briefly informing the audience about the 19 rings divided among the elves, dwarves, and man himself. But the one ring was created by the Dark Lord Sauron in order to conquer them all. Havoc and mayhem take over Middle-earth until the last alliance, where both men and elves fight off orcs on Mount Doom. A gruesome, terrible war until it all leads up to Isildur, King of Gondor, to chop off that pretty looking ring off Sauron's finger. He decides to take it on his own, but becomes quickly ambushed by a group of orcs. He uses the ring's power of invisibility to get away, but it betrays him in the river, letting the orcs kill Isildur and the ring being lost for 2.5 thousand years, until later being found by Gollum. And the way they first show Gollum finding the ring doesn't really express that cruel, selfish act of his. In the book, the first to find it was his relative Deagle. Smeagol, as Gollum was originally named, was quickly drawn to the ring like that. And it was his birthday, so he wanted it as a present, but Deagle says no. And Smeagol literally strangles him to death. This leads on to mischievous deeds around this little hobbit village until he was exiled and began living in the Misty Mountains. Yeah, that ring is no joke, people. And our cinematic prologue concludes with Bilbo Baggins finding the ring and taking it for his own. The narration switches out to present day time with a well-aged Bilbo working on his book. And he actually goes explaining the section concerning hobbits that was in the book's prologue, which is done very well. He explains their nature, their love of burning some good old pipeweed, and the visuals save time by also showing the preparations for Bilbo's grand birthday party.
Celebrate a simple life.
That clap better be for the preparations and not for Baggins himself. He wasn't like that much. Or at all. His concentration is disturbed with a knock on the door and calls his nephew Frodo to answer, who is actually slacking off in the fields, reading a book and apparently waiting for Gandalf, the happy fireworks supplier. The two are riding in the wagon talking about the party and Bilbo's strange actions while the camera captures some breathtaking looks of the Shire. But all this is a little weird to me because their relationship felt more mature in the book. They talked like adults, acted like adults in the same sense as Gandalf talking with Bilbo. Just a small minor observation I made, and I hope that leans more on the film's version of Frodo's childlike nature instead of me having to say, what a wonderfully touching relationship that would totally not be set up for future events in the foreseen future. Please, oh please let it be the former. After entertaining the kids with fireworks, Gandalf is left alone to visit Bilbo at his home, where they don't talk about the fact that it should be Frodo's birthday as well, but instead focus on Bilbo's plan to leave the Shire during the party, in search of a place with peace and quiet to work on his book.
Frodo suspects something.
Of course he does.
You will tell him, won't you?
He'd probably come with me if I asked him.
Okay, so Frodo really is being treated more like a child, because as a matter of fact, he was actually in on the plan about Bilbo leaving. So, making a little time to enjoy a good smoke, Bilbo's party begins and it is a hoot! We get to see Sam for the first time, a display of fireworks you'll never see in the nearby Disney park, and to my surprise, we see Merry and Pippin over here stealing from the wizard himself. So crazy! And it isn't long before Bilbo and Frodo are trying to hide from the Sackville Baggins, and a touching moment comes between them.
You're a good lad, Frodo. I'm very selfish, you know. You were the one Baggins that showed real spirit. Bilbo, have you been at the Gaffer's home brew? No. The point is, Frodo, you'll be alright.
Tell him! I will be 78% happier if you just told him. After the great red dragon flies by the party, Bilbo begins something that isn't really considered a speech, just a list of party guests and his farewell, along with a funny trick. No, this was actually set up using some sort of binding light, and without it, it actually makes Bilbo more suspectful of using crooked magic. He returns home, meeting up with Gandalf and packing up all his things. He's leaving Bag End to Frodo along with the ring, but Bilbo doesn't make the parting easy.
My precious.
Precious.
He then gets into a real rage before Gandalf talks some mighty words to bring him back.
Bilbo Baggins! Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks.
Yeah, a word of advice? Don't screw with the wizard. As a matter of fact, don't even screw with his fireworks. I bet he'll get real fuzzy about that too. So Bilbo finally lets go of the ring and leaves the Shire, with Frodo coming home a little bit later. Gandalf passes the news of the house and envelope to the new master and suddenly leaves to collect information. Meanwhile, in another part of the world, we hear the voice of Gollum snitching and bitching to the Dark Lord with 3 measly words. The Dark Riders are suddenly unleashed to Middle-earth asking around for Baggins, and Gandalf is shown doing research on the evil ring. Yeah, this movie kind of loses me a bit, because of the condensed time. I mean, that was one of the main elements that made the book so expansive. These worlds were huge and far, and it will take weeks just to reach a place. I'm still trying to get a grasp on the world, so I wouldn't know better, but I can understand why the movie does this. 17 years between the events is a long time to ask the audience to wait for. We got a movie to keep happening. Get the ball rolling! So after a night of drinking, Frodo returns home to a surprising Gandalf, dropping the ring into the fire to reveal its words.
It says, one ring to rule them all. One ring to find them. One ring to bring them all. And in the darkness, find them.
He then goes on about what was already described in the prologue, and that because of Gollum's incredible torture, Sauron knows that the ring is in the Shire, posing a danger to the hobbits. Frodo has no choice but to leave and take the ring elsewhere.
Get down. Confound it all, Samwise Gamgee! Have you been eavesdropping?
I ain't been dropping no eaves, sir, honest. I was just cutting the grass under the window there, if you follow me.
A little late for trimming the verge, don't you think?
No, Gandalf, you got it all wrong. You see, he was actually peeping over at Rosie's cabin because she's apparently a thing in this movie for some reason, and he actually overheard you guys. Because seriously, who the hell trims at night? You goddamn weirdo. And why did Sam's request to join the party sound more like a threat?
Mr. Gandalf, sir, don't hurt me. Don't turn me into anything.
I've thought of a better use for you.
He just wanted to go and see some elves, man. Just like in the book. Not for the sake of punishment. But yeah, Sam's now rolling with Frodo with no preparations to cover up their leaving as the book did by selling Baggin to the Sackville Baggins and moving back to Brandybuck. Now I guess the people who never really cared about Frodo, or the treasure he received from his uncle, or his uncle in general. Oh, what a wonderful community! Also, was that supposed to be Gildor and his crew? I think that's supposed to be Gildor and his crew. We then follow Gandalf to the lands of Isengard to visit his good wizard friend Saruman the White. They talk about the ring and the Eye of Mordor looking over the land, revealing Saruman's intel with the lost seen stone. But it is then revealed that Saruman is on the dark side and he and Gandalf engage in a quick struggle. Quick is a good word because the cuts for this scene are pretty short and fast. You could actually blink and miss an action. But man, was I lucky to see Gandalf's face mopping that floor. I know it's supposed to be serious because of this terrible betrayal with his friend, but it just looks like he's about to bust a move. So Gandalf is captured at the moment, and we come back to the two hobbits multiplying with Merry and Pippin crashing into them. Apparently they were stealing from Farmer Maggot, making this a quick mention to a friendly scene in the book. And this officially clears all my confusion that they are in fact still kids. Wanna know why? Well, not only because the movie doesn't make it feel like 17 years has passed, but the book describes Frodo's childhood going to Farmer Maggot's farm and robbing him of his crops. Also, Pippin was in good terms with Maggot, so seeing him with Merry stealing crops does set the bar for these characters' maturity levels. They could have made a good ally out of Maggot, but nothing beats a swifty run through a corn crop. They all fumble down a hill and get really distracted with a patch of mushrooms before Frodo realizes something's coming. They go hiding under a large root waiting for the... Oh, that is scary! I am actually impressed with the designs on these Black Riders. From the creepy horses to the immeasurable size carrying over the hobbits, this rider really poses a threat and comes off as something to definitely fear for. So right before Frodo can pull a Houdini, Sam stops him and Merry throws his stolen goods away as a distraction. They run into the night with Frodo letting Merry know of his mission. Merry decides to help using the ferry while at the same time running away from the Black Rider. No, I totally understand. Don't want to get your steel boots wet, right? Because they're getting away so fast, it will be a waste to just jump in and take the little fuckers. But they do get away, sailing 20 miles into the Brandywine River, and I'm just super bummed right now. I was really hoping to see Tom Bombadil, but again, this movie... Now the hobbits arrive at Bree, setting sights on the prancing pony. They are greeted by Butterbur and ask about Gandalf, but he hasn't been there in over 6 months, which we know why. The group stay in the inn getting their drink on, with a hooded ranger named Strider looking over Frodo. Pippin makes the grave mistake of speaking Frodo's true name out in the open, and as Frodo tries to pull him back, he trips and falls backwards. With the ring on, he's wandering around in inner space and time, watched by the Eye of Mordor. He takes the ring off, allowing Strider to carry him off in the private room. He reveals his pretty face and warns the hobbits that the Black Riders are coming. They hide in another spot as the riders, now properly named the Ringwraiths, are fooled by the most cliche trick in the book, body pillows. This gives Strider the chance to help the hobbits escape in the morning, guiding them to Rivendell. And their journey with the real traveler is something new to them. Pippin learns to adapt without his multiple lunches, and Frodo briefly learns the story of Beren and Tinuviel as Strider sings it to the moon. I mean, it's all just a real educational high for them. As that trip continues, we peep back into Saruman still being evil as Sauron commands him to redecorate his land to look more dead and dreary. And Gandalf stuck at the pinnacle of Orthanc. Oh, the tragedy. Back to the hobbits, they arrive at Weathertop to camp for the night. Strider gives them swords, which is not at all correct, but since the journey through Barrels Down was cut, why the hell not? Given a quick rest, Frodo wakes up to the smell of food and quickly puts out the fire, which doesn't seem smart because if book memory serves me correctly, fire was somewhat effective against the Ringwraiths. Speaking of which, the Ringwraiths return in the group surrounding Frodo and friends. The squad ain't no match and Frodo has no choice but to use the ring to vanish, looking upon the Ringwraiths' true appearance. Hey, come on, don't make Frodo to be weak all the time. I mean, in the book, at least he uses his sword to shank one of them. Luckily, Strider comes to the rescue to look more of a badass with his mighty sword and fire! I kid you not, he tosses that torch like a goddamn tomahawk and sets the Ringwraith's face on fire. After the fight, Strider learns that Frodo's been stabbed by a Morgul blade and needs some elvish medicine stat. They quickly continue their travels again, allowing the movie to cut back to Saruman still being evil, transforming his land into a total orc party. Okay, so this much I don't know about, because in the book, when Gandalf was retelling the story about visiting Saruman, it was very vague and didn't go into extreme details about his initial plan. This all feels like it's setting up something for the Twin Towers, which I haven't read yet. So if that's the case, I'm just going to stay down low before saying something wrong. Except the part with Gandalf making messages in his captivity. That I know what happened. But back to the dying Frodo, who's now taking refuge under stone trolls that were also part of Bilbo's old adventures.
Sam, do you know the Athelas plant?
Athelas?
Kingsfoil.
Kingsfoil, it's a weed.
It may help to slow the poison. Hurry.
Wait a minute. In the book, you had some Athelas back at Weathertop so he could endure the journey up to this point. Well, if he didn't have it then how the hell is Frodo still alive? Sheer willpower? Get out of here. Strider finds the healing plant as he's approached by Glorfindel. How's it going, love interest? And she helps Frodo get to Rivendell faster. She's followed by the rafts up to a river where she chants the river to annihilate the rafts. Although it's more correct to say that Frodo took on these rafts alone and that the waterworks were part of Elrond's security, I can forgive. I mean, either way, this scene is still pretty damn cool to watch. Escaping the rafts didn't seem to help Frodo's case and he passes out, waking up again with Gandalf by his side, who concludes the story by escaping via a giant eagle named Gwaihir. And I hate to ruin such a joyous moment, but couldn't Saruman do something instead of watching them fly away? Too much to think about. Hey, let's look at these pretty mountains again, right? Super cool, huh? So Frodo is now awake, thanking his caretaker and host Elrond and meeting back with his hobbit friends.
Bilbo!
Hello, Frodo, my lad.
Bilbo!
Oh my lord! Age has not been so kind to you, sir. Frodo and Bilbo reacquaint once again, talking about progress in the book and the adventures leading to this point, in which Frodo realizes he's not cut out for. He agrees with Sam that their mission is done and that they should return to the Shire. Meanwhile, from up above, Gandalf and Elrond are talking about Frodo's resistance to the ring, the doom that is coming near, and that the ring can't stay in Rivendell. They discuss where the hope should be placed on, and Elrond discredits all of man because back in the Last Alliance, he saw Isildur, the man, refuse to toss the ring. You know, if the destruction of mankind could have been avoided with something as simple as, I don't know, flipping a penny into a fountain, I would be pretty pissed too. Speaking of man, our main man, Boromir, finds Strider and practically just drops his father's famous sword in clear view. That's disrespectful. But it does leave time for some interspecies love. Can you feel the right here in Rivendell. And now it's time for the council meeting where they all basically decide what to do with the ring. And also comes one of the top memes this world's ever seen.
One does not simply walk into Mordor.
Also, I don't understand why this movie played its cards quick with Boromir's character. In the book, it's read as though Boromir is just honestly looking for answers and wanting to understand more, but this movie makes him out to be completely corrupted in the first instant. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's more evident of his lust for power later on in the book, but seeing it now, at this moment, this lingering close-up shot is the classic villain setup. Well, at least Gandalf's got him in check. By the end of it, they decided to destroy the ring at Mount Doom, where it was originally created. The question is, who was going to take it there? The dwarf? No. The elf? No. The man? Did you see what the hell he tried to do?
I will take the ring to Mordor.
Oh, sweet naive Frodo. This quest will break you. But because of his astounding bravery, he's gotten the assistance of Gandalf, Legolas the elf, Gimli the dwarf, Strider, now to be known as Aragorn, and Boromir the man. Even his hobbit friends don't want to be left behind.
9 companions.
So be it. You shall be the Fellowship of the Ring.
Right.
So there seems to be a lot of sword talk in the next few minutes as Elrond is asking Aragorn to reforge Isildur's sword back to perfection, and Bilbo giving up his valuable sword and rare chainmail to Frodo.
Oh. My old ring.
Oh my god! Sorry Ringwraiths, you've been seriously bumped down. That was the most frightening thing this movie's thrown at me yet. I mean, who would have suspected it? But this acts as a good reminder as to what he put his nephew through and becomes deeply saddened by it. And he should be. This was put on Frodo by accident. He has no reason to continue. So cry, old man. Cry. The time finally comes for the Fellowship to depart Rivendell, and things all seem like it's going to be a good start.
Mordor, Gandalf. Is it left or right?
Left.
Oh yeah, signs of a flawless journey. So after more beautiful shots on the land, the company walk a great distance to reach the Misty Mountains. As they're relaxing, Aragorn tells everyone to hide as a flock of crows swarm the area. Gandalf declares them spies from Saruman, and with their path being watched, they decide to move their walk to Caradhras.
It is a strange fate that we should suffer so much fear and doubt over so small a... Boromir! Give the ring to Frodo.
Gee, doesn't look like anything's going to happen with this guy. I mean, why did they bring him? Did they forget this?
Isildur's playing.
Nothing about him changed that would make me believe he's in good condition for this journey. The company now traverse through the snowy mountains, with Saruman receiving the bird's intel, forcing him to control the snow from his base. He creates high winds and an avalanche, and overall a terrible time for everyone.
We're gonna pass over the mountain. Let us go under it. Let us go through the mines of Moria. Let the ring bearer decide.
We will go through the mines.
So be it.
Ah! You hear that? Frodo alone made the choice. It wasn't Gandalf. It wasn't some desperate choice to escape the wolves or any other threats that were in the book. So whatever happens in the mines, it's all Frodo's fault! Which, now that I think about it, is really fucked up. So the company arrive at the walls of Moria, where Gandalf uses the moonlight to shine the door that's guarded with a password so ridiculously funny once you finally realize it.
The doors of Durin, Lord of Moria. Speak, friend, and enter.
What do you suppose that means?
Oh, it's quite simple. If you are a friend, you speak the password and the doors will open. Anon natel, edrochiamen, vennas nagothrim, vasto bev, amen.
What are you going to do then?
Knock your head against these doors, Peregrine Took.
Just give him time. He'll get it. And as we see the first and last acknowledgement of Bill the Pony and hobbits playing in spooky waters, Frodo finally manages to figure out the door riddle to create an entrance. Inside, they see that a majority of the dwarves have already been slaughtered by the work of orcs, and the situation becomes more grave as the tentacle tries to pull Frodo into the water. What's really interesting is how this movie got this sea creature to look like some sort of Davy Jones Predator hybrid. Frodo is saved, but their chances to turn back are kinda shattered. So they continue forward in this dark mine shaft, with Gandalf becoming the tour guide explaining the history of these mines up to a point where they all just might be doomed. Why? They take a break in which Frodo notices Gollum following them and Gandalf passing on some powerful words to lift Frodo's spirits.
I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
I bet we all can take something from this. Gandalf's nose brings back hope, leading the company to the city of Dwarreldelf, where Gimli finds the resting place of Balin, the Lord of Moria. Gandalf picks up a journal to read the final moments leading to his death.
You cannot get out. They are coming.
Pippin, I suggest you apologize and move because you are in perfect alignment for a Spartan kick to the face! Because of the noise, the drums start beating and the orcs come out to play, in which the company stand their ground and engage in the fight for survival. The action definitely increases tenfold, and I can feel the struggle by the waves of monsters coming at them. Hell, even Doomsday makes an appearance. Oh, there's no question, that's totally Doomsday. You cannot tell me that this troll does not look like Doomsday from Batman v Superman. I mean, in comparison, yeah, he has like a lumpier back, Quasimodo hunchback, but it's totally Doomsday. I can't be the only one who sees this. Overall, this scene is definitely a highlight. I mean, in the book, Gandalf told the crew to leave before the troll arrived, but by changing this, we can now experience the awesome cooperation between the Fellowship when taking on this massive beast together. Incredibly well put. Anyways, after killing the troll, the company checks on Frodo, who's been stabbed by a giant spear, but learns that he's so lucky to be wearing the Mithril chainmail. With a whole army of orcs and goblins after them, they try to run away but are quickly outnumbered. Things get immensely real as they run for their lives, with Gandalf warning them that swords and tools will prove ineffective. Running from arrow-wielding orcs and breaking stairs, they make it to the bridge of Khazad-dûm, where Gandalf holds the demon creature back on his own.
You shall not pass!
Alright, Gandalf! But wait, are we forgetting one small detail? Alright! He doesn't make it. And why is Boromir holding Frodo back as Aragorn stares? They both tried to run to Gandalf's aid in the book! But oh well. Gandalf falls and the company take a second to mourn, and I mean literally a second, with the orcs still trying to kill him. Aragorn leads them to the forest of Lothlorien, where they are quickly surrounded by Haldir and his elves and questioned in the treetops.
You bring great evil with you. You can go no further.
Well, hold up a second. In the book, I remember these guards letting them through because they heard word from Rivendell about the Fellowship. Come on, Haldir, cut them some slack. They just watched an old man die. With enough private talk, Aragorn convinces Haldir to guide the company into Caraz Galadon without any blindfolds, where they meet the king and queen of this elfdom, Lord Celeborn and Lady Galadriel. Galadriel does most of the talking, welcoming the travelers to her land, and even giving some double messages to Frodo.
Tonight, you will sleep.
Welcome, Frodo of the Shire. One who has seen the eye.
She was all great! Up to that suspicious point. Yeah. During the resting, Frodo is called upon by Galadriel, guiding him to her mirror, which can foresee things in the past, present, or future. When Frodo takes a look, he sees a nasty image of his hobbit kind being chained and raided by orcs, and even a surprise guest from the Eye of Mordor, dragging the ring closer to it before Frodo snaps back. Galadriel informs Frodo that she too hears the voice of Sauron in her mind. She reminds him of his duty as the ring bearer, and those visions will happen if he fails the quest. Frodo gets scared and tries to offer the ring to her. The result?
All shall love me understand.
I pass the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel.
Oh! Okay, so in the end, it was just all about you. Not Frodo, but you. well, thank God we could clear that up. After that scene, we quickly come back to Saruman, who's finally finished assembling his orc army and sends them out to find Frodo in the ring. Charming. The next morning, the company are finally leaving Lothlorien by boat, revealing cloaks and food as parting gifts. Galadriel is even more kind to give her own personal gifts to them, yet not entirely correct. Legolas does get a bow, Frodo does get the Light of Eärendil, Pippin and Merry don't get silver belts but instead daggers, and instead of Lothlorien soil, Sam gets rope. I don't think most people will understand the rope situation unless they read the book. This movie doesn't really explore that at all. But hey, at least it's better than the slightly creepy gift Gimli got.
I asked her for one hair from her golden head. She gave me 3.
Don't know what he's going to do with it. It's not my place to judge. Now the company is settling down the Great River with Saruman's orcs coming ever so close and Gollum still tailing them from a distance. Boromir wants to take the gang to Gondor, but Aragorn won't allow it. This part in particular really catches my attention because, as I recall, they weren't really bound to each other. The hobbits and Gandalf were willing to stay with Frodo, but both Boromir and Aragorn were just tagging along until they would reach Minas Tirith to reforge the sword, and Legolas and Gimli would just go as far as they wanted. Right now, they've been through a lot and created a bond with one another, but back in Rivendell, the movie just turns them into the Fellowship without establishing any of their personal goals for this trip, making things a little bit more complicated and confusing towards the end. With more sailing, they reach the Argonath, aka the Pillar of Kings. They take a break and argue over which path will be wise to follow. Frodo is taking the solo walk when he's confronted by Boromir, finally revealing what the ring has done to him.
I ask only for the strength to defend my people.
You are not yourself.
Couldn't be mine. It should be mine. Give it to me.
Frightened, Frodo uses the ring to disappear, hiding on the summit of Amon Hen, witnessing the immense scale of the Eye of Mordor. He takes the ring off and Aragorn finds him, but is too paranoid to get close to anyone.
Would you destroy it?
I would have gone with you to the end. Into the very fires of Mordor.
Now Aragorn, true bro of Gondor. Can't help but love the dude. And this is where there's some altercation to the ending of this story. Instead of Frodo simply leaving in secret while the other Fellowship members argue, Saruman's orcs arrive to cause the main distraction. All that build-up in scenes with Saruman even after Gandalf has been released does make the final 20 minutes very action-packed and enjoyable. And right now, I'm feeling 87% sure that this actually does happen in the books. I mean, all this could have happened once Frodo and Sam goes off on their own after the book ends. Maybe when they all meet up again, and I really hope they do, Aragorn or Legolas would recount what happened after Frodo sailed away, like the taking of Merry and Pippin, and one very important scene. I really hope that this information becomes true in the Two Towers, because if not, then I'm just going to be very upset. Boromir doesn't die, at least as much as the Fellowship of the Ring told me, but if it does happen, then I'll be damn proud for this movie for putting promo shots to get me hyped when I get around to doing the Two Towers review. But for now, I'm just going to have to wait and see. So as I said, Frodo uses the orcs to his advantage to sail to Mordor alone. Only Sam finds him and decides to join them. You know, after he stops drowning. I'm sorry. Just by the way it was shot, it looked really funny.
And I'm coming with you! You can't swim!
Oh, damn it all! And as the rest of the Fellowship decide to rescue Merry and Pippin from the orcs, Frodo and Sam look over their next Forsaken journey together, ending the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. Now, both the book and the movie are definite grand works. I had fun reading it, and I enjoyed watching it. There were a few cuts here and there in the movie, but it's totally understandable. I mean, the book had so much happening that it would have taken at least an hour and a half longer to finish, which honestly I don't think anyone would be complaining about. But still, it's kind of those little cuts that made the Fellowship of the Ring more engaging. So for this time, the book wins. I mean no offense to the movie, because it is indeed gorgeous, and there were some stuff that I liked better. For instance, the personalities were a lot more easier to distinguish. I'm not saying that the characters from the book didn't have a personality, but it wasn't shown clearly. Not a little through their actions, but when it came to dialogue, they all didn't sound much different from one another. But with a movie, it's a little bit more easier to express those personalities. Frodo's the young soul that gets his chance to explore the world. Sam's the generic best friend that will follow Frodo to the ends of the world. And I don't know why they made Pippin and Merry a little Tweedledee and dumb, but at least they didn't abandon their loyalty to their friends for the sake of being a simple comedy duo. And pretty much the great thing about this movie is just how easy it is to comprehend. The story itself is something that shouldn't be skipped over because of reading preferences, and I'm so glad that the movie found a way to condense all the information and just cover the main plot points, like a visual spark notes, if you will. But again, that's the main reason why I sided with the book. I felt like those small detours, those stops between the main points were what made the story feel like an actual adventure. I wanted to see how Tom Bombadil would look in the live adaptation. I wanted to see that new house in Brandybuck. It's understandable why, but it still doesn't make it better. I really do want to point out the Fellowship in general, because there were some parts in the book that really shined. Like when the hobbits are in the new house and Frodo's trying to go alone, but the other three refuse to leave him. I thought that part was really touching, and sad to see that was scrapped, and instead Merry and Pippin joined Frodo and Sam with literally no reason, just cause they had to, because it happened in the book. And Boromir, man, talk about giving away too much. I mean, for God's sakes, one does not simply deconstruct a good twist. And that's really how I felt, like I was cheated out of a good surprise. Of course I knew what was going to happen, but it didn't mean I wanted to see the movie completely butcher the subtlety in this reveal. When reading, I didn't know he was going to go mad. I thought Boromir was just asking some honest questions because he didn't know better. And at the end, when he confronts Frodo with an ill mind, I was so surprised. But this movie didn't do that. Not just one, nor two, but 3 scenes lingering on him showing this guy who would definitely betray or do harm to the group. And they still let him go along with the Fellowship, even after seeing this. After Gandalf and everyone else already seeing him being this tempted, would you honestly take this semi-corrupted man to protect the one thing that's making him feel corrupted? No! And I don't know if this is just a minor complaint, but it really just annoyed me more than anything else in this movie. But aside from these issues, the movie itself was fantastic and a really well made adaptation. There were some beautiful shots all across Middle Earth, and the characters were just downright lovable. This is a perfect substitute for those who might think reading the book will be a chore, but honestly, if you want just a little bit more of a punch to your adventurous taste, then the book's definitely got you covered with more amazing side quests with the same level of excitement. With that said, those are my final thoughts on the Fellowship of the Ring. And if you don't agree, well then read the book, watch the movie, and make your own opinions. I'm Katana, and I'm seriously excited to finish the rest of the series. It is really that awesome. Also, a quick side note, from here on out until I decide not to do it anymore, I'll be announcing the next review after each episode, for two reasons. One is that I've seen a few people, just a few, who are participating, meaning that they read the book and watch the movies before actually watching the review, which is actually pretty exciting. The second reason is just that I don't want to raise any expectations. I don't want to disappoint people with a review they expected but instead got another review. So, for the next BVM review, we'll be covering The Giver by Lois Lowry. And I think it's about time we see what this society is all about. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, just wanted to say thanks again for watching this review. If you enjoyed it and are looking forward for more, why not subscribe and stay updated on the next review? Didn't satisfy your craving for adventure? Well, why not check out my last review on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and give that a chance. Got a book/movie review that you'd like to see one day? Well, leave it in the comments down below and I'll be sure to check it out. You guys do all that while I head to the store and buy some ring pops. This review just gave me the idea for some juicy ring pops. Tasty, delicious ring pops. Precious ring pops. No, forget all that. Bye!